everyone, welcome back to the last days of Vlogmas. Now I want to tell you that today, which is December the 25th, will be the last day of Vlogmas. Now I know I only gave you 8 so far. I am dropping 2 more, which is the apron and a table runner. Now the last one that I was going to drop, which was the kitchen essentials, I will not be dropping that because I had some things that happened this week and it took time away from me sewing or whatnot. So these last 2 will be the last 2 Vlogmas that I will be doing. All right. So like I mentioned, we'll be today, well, in this video, we'll be doing Simplicity 9805, which is the apron. I'm making this apron for my daughter, so I will be doing a size small, all right? So I have a video that if you need to know what you need, sewing toolkit for all of my sewing tutorials, but in terms of notion, the only thing that you need is 1 3/8 yards of 1-inch twill tape, which is also optional. So this one, I'm just gonna say it's a no notion pattern, all right? Because I will not be using twill tape. So she doesn't want the ruffle, so essentially I will be doing view A and it's only 5 pattern pieces, all right? So let's go ahead and look at the instructions for this pattern and then look at the pattern pieces. All right, so in terms of the instructions, you only need 5 pattern pieces because we are doing view A. Now I am using plaid fabric, so I had to cut each piece out separately. If you are doing view B, you will need a total of 7 pattern pieces. Now, the reason why I'm only doing 5 is because I am not putting on the embroidering or the applique, whichever one you want to call it. It looked like it's embroidered. I'm not doing that situation. And my daughter does not want the ruffles from view B. So essentially, like I just mentioned, we are doing view A with the pockets, all right? Now, in terms of the instructions, we are only doing 13 steps, okay? So if you look at apron AB, you will do everything all the way down to number 13, and then you are done. Now, this one's going to be pretty much a quick sew and quick process as well. This project, you do not need any interfacing whatsoever. You will need to, like for the bodice front, it's the bodice front and the bodice back. So you will need to cut 2 on the fold, but I'm going to show you what I did to the bodice back. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the sew along for it. So let's talk about the pattern pieces. So I'm going to move my instructions out the way and let's talk about the pattern pieces. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the pattern pieces. The first pattern piece is pattern piece number 1, which is the bodice front and back. You need to cut 2 on the fold of fabric. So here's the thing. I ran out of, fabric. Like I ran out of solid fabric. So because I did that, I just went ahead and cut 2 pieces of this fabric that I used for the cosmetic case. Amazing. I had some left over. I have none now because I'm using it for the inside of her, what you want to call it? Inside of her apron. Okay. Now, with that being said, I did extend the fold by a 1/2 inch in order to attach it and it'll still fit. All right. So if you are running low on fabric, you can always extend it by a 1/2 inch at the center front and cut as if you are cutting, this would be your fold line, but now you have a 1/2 inch to attach it together on both sides. All right. So that's what I did there, just so, when we start sewing, you'd be like, Rochelle, why you got a seam in the middle of your apron, right? And I just wanted to explain that. So that's why it's a little different than the pattern instructions or the pattern piece. All right. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 5, which is optional. It's your pockets. You need to cut 2 of fabric. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 2, which are your straps. You need to cut 2 of fabric. Next pattern piece is pattern piece number 3, which is the skirt front for view A and view B. You need to cut 1 on the fold of fabric. Now, one thing I want to mention is because this is for my daughter, I did shorten this piece by 5 inches because of her height. Now, if you are making it for yourself, you do not need to shorten it, but I just wanted to tell you that just in case you see like, hey, you know, the length is different. It's because I shortened it by 5 inches for the sake of my daughter. All right, but this is pattern piece number 3, the skirt front, cut 1 on the fold of fabric. And the last pattern piece is pattern piece number 4, which is the skirt back. You need to cut 2 of fabric. Those are all the pattern pieces that you need in order to construct this apron. So let's go ahead and get to the sewing. All right, so let's go ahead and start with pattern piece number 1, which is your bodice front and back. So go ahead and grab pattern piece number 1. And what we're gonna do, I have already done this, so I'm just gonna tell you what you need to do for both pieces of pattern piece number 1. You need to stay stitch the armhole area. All right, so you're gonna start at the side and come all the way up to the top on both sides. All right, so you're gonna do that for both of your bodice front pattern pieces. So you can see that pretty much right here on mine. I'm gonna bring it closer so you can see. And then I did the same thing on my other piece as well. All right, so that is pattern piece number 1. Now I'm going to move my pattern piece number 1 out of the way and grab pattern piece number 2, which are your straps. So I did one strap off camera. You guys know how I do, right? And what we're going to do, grab pattern piece number 2, your strap. And what we're going to do is, with wrong sides together, we're going to fold it in half, press it all the way across. Then you're going to open it out, press both sides to that line, that crease that you have, okay? Now, I have not done this, so I'm just showing you guys what to do. And then after you press it again, you're going to press it one last time like this, right? And then you're going to stitch about 1/4 of an inch, basically top stitching this close. All right, so go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the straps done, go ahead and grab pattern piece number 1, which is your bodice front. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your bodice front, and what you're going to do is you're going to pin where you have those 2 dots, right? And make sure that it's even. You're going to pin this to the top, just like you see me doing here. And then you're going to definitely take this and pin it over on the side, kind of like this. It's going to look weird, I know. And you want to make sure you match up those dots right here as well. And you're going to pin. All right, you're going to take this other strap and do the exact same thing. So you're going to, I know it's going to look a little weird and look like it's pulling, but you want to take this strap and you want to make sure you are lining up the dots. So those are my 2 dots right there. I'm going to pin in place. Now I'm going to take the bottom of the strap, move it up. I'm going to pin it over to the other side, making sure I am matching up the 2 dots over here. All right. And I'm going to pin that in place. Now, because this is for my daughter, I might have to adjust at a later time. It might be a little too loose, but I could adjust at a later time as well. All right. All right, so now that I have that there, all I'm going to do is go to my sewing machine and base the sides and the top. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the straps basted on, go ahead and grab the other bodice piece. And what we're going to do is, with right sides together, we're just going to pin it all the way around. So I'm going to pin at the top, the armhole, and the back. All right, so just go ahead and pin, making sure your straps are out the way, but you also want to make sure that it is even, okay? So go ahead and pin the tops, the armholes, and the sides. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the bodice pin, using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm gonna start in the center at the top. I'm gonna back stitch at the beginning, sew across, and then pivot, and then sew all the way across the underarm seam, pivot again, and then sew to the end, back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Then I'm gonna turn it over and do the same thing in the opposite direction, all right? So go ahead and do that now using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Go ahead and sew your bodice front and back up now. All right, so now that we have the bodice sewn, I went ahead and trimmed it down all the way across. Then I understitched all the way across. After I did that, this is what the inside is looking like. It looks pretty good. And then this is what the outside is looking like after understitching, pressing it in shape, and then I just baste it along the bottom, okay? That's all in the instructions as well. Now move your bodice off to the side and grab pattern piece number 3 and 4. Well, first things first, grab pattern piece number 4, all right? And what you're going to do is on the side where you have the dot at the top, where it has fold line, you're gonna fold it. I made sure to mark my white line all the way down. So I folded it, right? Pressed it, and then I'm going to take the edge and press in just to that line, all right? On both skirt back pattern pieces, all right? So I'm gonna move this off to the side, and the other side, what we're gonna do is attach that to pattern piece number 3. Now, pattern piece number 3 is your skirt front. Make sure you mark that pocket line if you want pockets on your skirt, all right? So what we're gonna do is go ahead and grab open it up, pattern piece number 3, open that up, your skirt front. And what we're gonna do is with right sides together, we want to pin our side seams to each other, all right? So make sure you're not pressing the section with the fold, okay? So you're not pinning that section, you're pinning the other section on the side. So essentially you're pinning the portion where you have the dot that makes the pocket, that's what you're pinning to the side. Now I'm gonna turn mine so you are able to see this, all right? So I'm going to pin with right sides together, matching up that notch, and then pin at the top. And pin at the bottom and pin the length of that skirt, all right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the side seam pin using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and a regular length stitch, back stitch at the beginning and at the end, go ahead and sew that seam. Once you do that, go ahead and finish off your seam and press your seam allowance towards the back. You're gonna do that to both sides, all right? After you do that, go ahead and create gathering stitches along the top. Now, with gathering stitches, I create my first gathering stitching line at a 1/2 inch seam allowance using the longest stitch on my machine, which is 5.0. And then I create the second stitch at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, all right? And then I'm gonna gather. So once you finish sewing your side seams, go ahead and create your gathering stitches at the top of your skirt, all right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I have the side seams sewn onto my skirt portion, or my daughter's skirt portion, I should say, I have the gathering stitches done up at the top. So now we're gonna go ahead and stitch together our pocket, all right? So what we're gonna do, I have already done this off camera, but we have done pockets before. So what you're gonna do is finish off the top edge of your pocket and then press in a 1/4 of an inch. Once you do that, you have dots right here. You're gonna press it with wrong sides to right side. Well, right sides together like you see here. Press it and then clip the corners, all right? Kind of like an L. Once you do that, we're gonna take it and turn it right side out like this. Poke out your corners like so. So it should form a pocket right now. And then we're gonna go to our pressing station and then press all the lines in, okay? But you're gonna make a corner like this. It should look like this, okay? Like that. All right, so go ahead and press in your pockets and then we'll attach them on. So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that I went ahead and did the pockets, the next thing you wanna do is go ahead and attach it to the skirt portion, making sure that the top where the dots are right here meets up with those dots. And then you want to make sure that it's within that box, okay? So I'm gonna finish pinning the bottom section. So go ahead and pin your pockets to that portion now. And now that I have it pinned, the sides and the bottom, we're gonna basically just top stitch using about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I'm gonna back stitch at the beginning, so both sides and across the bottom now, leaving the top untouched, all right? So go ahead and do that now. All right, so now that we have the pocket sewn on both front sides, it's looking amazing. Go ahead and grab your top. Okay, so here's the thing. The ends of the top are supposed to meet up where you have that 1/4 of an inch pressed edge, so where that dot is. So what you want to do is, with the right sides together, you want to line up the bottom of your bodice portion there. You want to make sure you are matching up the notches as well. Now you're going to have to gather your skirt, but what I want to say is gather in sections. So before I'm gathering, I'm going to make sure that my notches match up, and then I'm going to gather a little bit and then match up another notch, okay? So there's a notch there. So I know I'm going to gather this portion right here. I'm just going to gather just a little bit just to show you, and I'm going to let you do the rest yourself, okay? So I'm going to grab those two ends right here, and then I'm just going to gather to make sure, enough just to make sure that the bodice fits onto the skirt, okay? So just gather just a little bit. All right, so now that I have it gathered, I'm gonna make sure that it's even with my bodice and make sure to pin. You don't need to gather a whole lot, but you wanna make sure that your bodice is definitely fitting onto that skirt portion with no issues, okay? And then once you have it gathered, you want to definitely go ahead and pin that section. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin just this section now just to show you what it looks like, and then I'm gonna let you do the rest of it yourself, all right? So go ahead and pin that section in place now. All right, so now that I have this section done, the next thing you're gonna do is go ahead and do the rest of your section, making sure you are pinning at all of the notches and your dots need to meet up with the back, all right? So go ahead and pin the rest of the bodice to the skirt now. All right, so we are all done attaching our skirt to our bodice. It looks really good. This is the inside and this is the outside right here. Make sure you clean up all your loose threads as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create our facing that you see here. I did this side for you already, but I'm going to show you how you do the other side. So I'm just turning it to where you could see it. This is the raw edge. Now, the thing about it is you should have pressed in 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and then I pressed it again on that fold line. But what you're going to do is take that 1/4 of an inch, fold it onto itself. So basically I have that 1/4 of an inch pressed in to that line, right? So I'm going to press to that line, and then I'm going to take it back to where that fold line meet, and I'm going to pin. Then I'm going to sew across using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, back stitch at the beginning and at the end. So go ahead and form that facing that you see now. All right, so now that I have the facing done, the only thing you need to do is go ahead and push that in. If you need your point turner to make sure that that's poked out, you can use that as well. Now what you need to do is press to that line once again, like you see here. It should already be there, but if you need to press to that line, you go ahead and do so. and then you're going to fold it in and give it another good press. Now mine is already pressed because I pressed it really, really good, and that's what mine is looking like. So this is what mine's gonna look. And then I'm going to pin on the right side, but you can pin on the wrong side if you would like, but I'm just gonna basically pin and then top stitch on the right side. So let me go ahead and pin this in place now. All right, so now that I have it pinned right sides together, what I'm gonna do is using, I wanna say it's about 1/2 inch, but it could be 5/8 of an inch. What you're going to do is top stitch, making sure that you catch in that press edge right here. So back stitch at the beginning, so all the way down, and back stitch at the end. Once you do that, the only thing you need to do is press up your hem. Your hem is 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now I'm just going to go ahead and press up like this. I'm not going to do a double fold because I already finished off my edge right here. Okay, so I'm just going to press up 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and then stitch this in place. All right. Once you do that, you are all done with your apron. I'm going to show you guys some pictures with my daughter in the apron here at the very end. All right. Well, we have sewn Simplicity 9805. This is the apron for our Vlogmas, and it was a holiday inspired apron. I sewed up view A for this project. So since you made it this far, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe button, also smash that notification bell so you are notified every time I upload a new video. If this video was so inspiring to you and you decide to make it, please do not forget to tag me in your videos or on Instagram at Rochelle.Handmade.Designs. So I'll catch you in the next video, and as always, keep sewing.